All right. Please help me welcome our sixth contestant, Hovard Lilletuin, with 100 Silent Ways.
Thank you.
A 100 Silent Ways, Hovard Lilletuin.
Yes! You know the feeling. You give a wow presentation at the office. Or last week in the club, like the 5 speakers before me, you nailed that speech. Just like an arrow through the air. Phew! Your words hit the target. Fellow Toastmasters and contest chair, you know the importance of getting your words right. But there are times in life when words are not enough to express how you feel, to tell somebody what you mean. Sometimes you need more than words to get your message across, but how? That's the question I asked myself a couple of years ago. My wife, Pat, had been complaining of a stomach ache. She went for a checkup and she was diagnosed with cancer. Primary peritoneal cancer, stage 3 or 4, they said. Our world fell apart. I was an emotional wreck. I was sad. I didn't want to lose my wife, and I was angry. Why? And I was in love all at the same time. And I was struggling. In a situation like that, what do you say to your wife to help her know she's loved and special? And I thought back, who had made me feel special in life? What did they say? How did they do it? My daughter Annette, when she was a little girl, she could barely speak, but my goodness, could she communicate. When I come home from work, as soon as she saw me coming in the door, she would look at me with her big, brown, innocent eyes and her smile. Even the sun couldn't shine brighter. She would drop whatever she was doing, run over, throw her arms around me. Daddy! She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. It was obvious. She loved her daddy. Or my first girlfriend, Lily, with a little dimple on her left cheek. On our very first date, all we did was go for a walk. But that was enough to know that we loved each other. We were barely 10. And you're laughing because you think it was puppy love, but I knew it was real because of the way we held hands when we walked, because of the way she looked at me, and because of the way my heart was beating like crazy. Nobody had ever made me feel like that before. Nobody had looked at me like that before. And although we didn't speak the whole time, it created a memory that I have cherished my whole life. And then there was my dad. My dad was a professor, a nuclear scientist, used to traveling all over the world, giving lectures about the most complex scientific theories. But the last years of his life, he was confined to a home. He had Alzheimer's. Most of the time sitting in his favorite rocking chair, smiling, looking out the window. He lost his ability to speak. But that didn't keep him from connecting, from sharing his thoughts and his feelings. Whenever my mom or I would visit, his eyes were full of life. His facial expression showed excitement, and he had this intense joy that we were there. And he would listen intently to everything we said. He hardly ever spoke, though, except there was one time my mother was pushing him around the wheelchair outside, and they came to one place when they could see across the valley, and she pointed and said, "Hey, look, there's a bus." So my dad looks over, and then he looks at my mom with disgust, and he says, "It's not a bus, it's a truck." My dad, always the scientist, he knew facts had to be explained with words. But all the other things, the important things, love, happiness, his eyes and his presence said it all. So, how would I make my wife feel special? Did I find out? Between treatments and trips to the hospital, we went for long walks, holding hands. I would sit with her during chemo, and just looking into her eyes was this new, warm, unforgettable experience. And of course, we had lots of hugs, affection, and whenever we were together, I made it a point to be there, to be present in the moment with her. Pat and I had some amazing months together. It may sound strange, but I think they were maybe some of the best times we ever had. And that's probably why during the last weeks we had together, she kept telling me again and again, "Now I know that you love me. Now I know that you love me." So if you ever find yourself in a situation when you cannot find the words to say, you're afraid they'll miss the target, don't worry. Try holding someone's hand, giving a look of love, a big hug, or just being in the moment, being present. Because sometimes the only way you can get your true message across is to follow the advice of the Persian poet Rumi, who said, "I closed my mouth and I spoke to you in 100 silent ways." Back to you.